Welcome back, everybody. We did it. We got to 1,000 subscribers. Yay! Thanks to all who've subbed. And if you are watching this and you haven't subbed yet, please just give that sub button a click. I want to continue making these Unity tutorials and giving out my code for you guys. And I'd love to keep doing this as a job. So please just hit that sub and let's get right into the video. I know I'm a little late, but like I've been working on it super hard. So honestly, here it is. You can see I've got you a bunch of guns, different guns. I worked very hard to make it super customizable and easy to add other guns. And so today what we're going to do is we're just going to go over how to create a simple pistol and basically kind of just learn the inner workings of the GunObject, which is one of the most important parts of this. Note, this is a long video, so here are some timestamps for you to be able to jump around to see specifically what you need and or what section that you want to learn about or need help with. So I'm gonna leave these here for you guys and for you guys to choose, for you guys to look at and figure out. They're also down in the description. But anyway, let's get started. Alright, first things first, to make all the features work, we are going to need to go over how to set this up and the requirements that should be in your project beforehand. Alright, let's first start out with Text Mesh Pro and how to get it. To do that, all you have to do is go into Window, Text Mesh Pro, and import TMP Essential Resources. Next, import a free asset from the asset store called Inverse Kinematics. I use this for the ARMIK, and honestly it's amazing, so big thanks to Jose and whoever helped him with this, because it's a great script. When importing it, all we need is the script, so not necessarily necessary to import all the models of the scene. You can just get only the script. The last thing you need to do is download and install Blender. If somehow you don't know, Blender is a free software for 3D modeling that you can get at blender.org. The reason is because the way I 3D modeled all the weapons is that I used Blender and I saved them as Blender files so I could always go in and update them. So unless you have Blender, you will not be able to use any of these models. So all you have to do is download and install Blender completely, and you should be able to use the models that I've already provided for you guys. Next thing you need to do is set up your project before you import the Unity package. That way nothing gets messed up on import. So first, go to your input settings. You can do this by going to Edit, Project Settings, and Input Manager. Open the Axes drop down, and in the size, you can increment it by 1, and that will add another input down at the very bottom. And so just go open that up. Make sure you change the settings. First name it Elevate, and then fill the settings with these on the screen. This input is for the swimming mechanic. Now go to Tags and Layers and open the drop down layers. You want to fill in these inputs as I am doing right now. It is important that they are in the correct spaces, or the player controller and gun controller won't have the correct layers set. It's best just to fill it in like this, but if you don't want to, or if you already have like certain layers, just make sure you go back into the player controller and gun controller and reset the correct layers. Now you can finally download the Unity package that will be linked down in the description and import it into your project. I highly recommend doing this instead of downloading just the code and trying to set up yourself, because the whole system is quite complicated. You would need to make sure that you set up the IK correctly, and just in that is in a lot of work and can be quite confusing. But with this package, you get everything already set up with animations, models, all free to use, and all the code. So I highly recommend just doing that instead. If you did everything correctly, you will see 3 new folders in your assets: Global, FPS Player, and FPS Shooting. If you're getting errors, just delete these 3 folders and make sure that you do the previous requirements. Lastly, you need to double check that your script execution order is correct. So once again, go to your player settings and open up script execution order. This is what it should look like. Importing the Unity package should give you this order already, but if not, just make sure you set it up to be in these exact positions. Now I will show you how easy it is to set up a scene. So all you have to do is go into FPS shooting, open it up, and you'll see two prefabs, player UI and shooter player. Go back into FPS player, go to fixed interpolation, and make sure you drag in this interpolation controller. It is very important that you do that, or it will not run correctly. You can now double check that the player controller has the correct set layers. It should be self-explanatory. Vault should go to vault, ledge, etc. Now that everything is working, let us go over what you will need to do to create your own guns. Don't worry, it's extremely easy. I even left us a gun unmade for us to do together as practice. We're going to be creating the simple pistol. So first, let's disable the assault rifle or any gun that is being enabled so we can easily see. Then create an empty game object. Should create down at the bottom, and just drag that into the gun controller. Reset the transform to make everything zero out. This is very important. Now go into the models, which is in FPS shooting, and then the folder models, and drag in the pistol model into that empty game object that you just created. Unpack the prefab completely. This way we can add stuff and change the positioning without it yelling at us. Now go into the prefabs folder and drag in arm. This is basically just a 3D model of an arm that is rigged so you can rotate the fingers, arm, and everything. Reset it to make it easy to see and set it to where it will be on the weapon. Put the gun where you think it should rest on the player's screen. Have it facing outwards. Then select the root of the model object, and then go over to layers and change layer to overlay gun. When it prompts you to change the children, say yes. Now on the game screen it should look correct, and we can finish positioning the pistol where we would like it. Once it's in the position you like, just copy that data. It's very important that you do that. And then you can go and name the gun where you would like. And last thing we need to do is drag in the gun bullet spawn. It's important that this is facing the right direction and in the correct position. So reset it and place it in the very front of the gun, right outside of the barrel. Now, the important thing here is that it's facing the correct direction. So first, make sure you are in local mode. Then rotate it to where the blue arrow is facing out of the barrel, the green is facing up, and the red is facing to the side like this. You've now set up the gun correctly, so what we're going to do is we're going to save the prefab. First, let's move into FPS shooting, weapons, and I made a pistol folder for us to place this in. So just drag the gun object into this folder. After that, go back into the gun object and copy the data. There's a button specifically for it. And then go back into the pistol folder, right click, go to create, and click gun object. This will create an object in the folder, just name it pistol or whatever you would like. Now go into that object and click the paste data button for the prefab local data, and your copy settings should be there. Now drag that prefab you saved earlier into the prefabbed object and name this gun whatever you would like. I'm just going to name it pistol. Once we do that, we can now delete the game object that we created earlier, including the gun object, and remove it from the gun controller completely. So everything you need to do to change the gun is in that gun object. So open that up, and first things first, let's give the gun to the player. So to do that, just scroll down to the very bottom, and at the bottom you should see a button called Give the Player This Gun. Click that and it should create the full gun prefab with the gun handler and everything, giving it to the player inside the gun controller. And if it doesn't look right, just change the prefab local data variable in the gun object and then give it back to the player. So here is the gun handler prefab. It is created when you give the player the gun, and you can see that we have our prefab we created earlier and a new IK hand transform. This is where the IK hand will be placed when using this weapon. If your hand didn't move, just make sure you have the target of the arm IK set as the IK hand transform. What you have to do to move this IK hand target is just change its position and rotation. So you want to move it and rotate it to a point where it looks good on the weapon that you have. And once you do that, then all you have to do is set this data into the gun transform. So to easily do that, just go and click the copy data button. Just click that and then go back into the gun object and make sure that you put it in the IK settings, IK hand target. Just paste that data in there. Once you do that, you can see the data in there again, and if you scroll all the way down again and give the player the gun, you should see your hand in the correct location this time. And now the IK hand transform should have those values. The last thing that we need to do to get this gun working is to set up the animation and the animator for the gun. The animations you give to the gun are idle, shoot, hip fire, take out, put away, and a sprint animation. I have them already created for the pistol, so all we have to do is set the animation controller in the gun object. Now, if you don't have animations already, you can easily create a controller by just going over to the GunHandler object that we create when you give the player the gun, and then click create on the animation tab. This will create an animator, but for now I'm not going to since I already have one. So let's set the animation controller variable for the gun here, and let's just search pistol and select it. You will now see more variables pop up, and these are for the animation names. Now, it's important that you don't have your animation set as looping unless they're the sprint one. So just go through each of your animations and make sure that the loop is unchecked. The only one that should be checked is the sprint, just like this. See, it's named sprint, so it should be checked because the sprint will loop over, everything else will not. The next step is to set all these in the gun object. So all you have to do is write down the name of the animation that you want to play at this time. So you can see that I only have one animation for shooting, and that's perfectly fine. So hipfire and aiming plays the same animation. The time where you would want this different is if one of your animation makes the gun clip into the camera, and you can adjust a specific animation for the aiming or the hipfire. Anyway, the rest are just filled in, and it's important that anytime you change the name of an animation in this animation settings, that you give the player the gun so it updates the gun handler and fills it with the correct information. It's important to have your animation controller set up correctly, so just select your animation controller and go to the Animator tab. Now this is how they should be set up. Any shoot, reload, and takeout animation should transition into the idle at the end of the animation. So you can see here there is an exit time, and the exit time is 1. So it transitions right at the end, and the transition duration should be 0. Next, the put away should not transition to anything. You'll need a Boolean parameter called sprinting. This is used to transition between an idle animation and the sprint animation. So you can see here each transition, it has no exit time, and it has a transition duration of 0.25. And the condition is if it's sprinting, it should go to the sprint animation, and if it's not sprinting, it should go to the idle animation. Lastly, the animations takeout, put away, and reload need to call specific functions for them to work correctly. At the very end frame of your takeout animation, create a function call, which calls a specific function at a frame, and all you have to do is hit this button to create one, and change it to the function gun is out. Next, go to your put away animation, go to the very last frame, and the function should be called is gun is away. Then go to your reload animation, and at the very end of your reload animation, it should call a function called reload ammo. It's very important that it's reload ammo and not reload gun, or you'll have a never-ending loop of reloading. The reload animation is special as well because you can set up restart points, which are points if you've reached, you should restart the animation at. And all you have to do is do the set reload restart point with the parameter of a normalized time to call. 0.5 is halfway, and if we wanted it like a quarter way in, it would be 0.25. An easy function to get this correct is just do the frame that you're at. So this is 45. So we're going to take this 45 and we're going to go to the very end of the function and grab that number. So it's 60. So all we have to do is do 45 divided by 60, and that will give us the value that we should put in for the set reload restart point. And with that, we are pretty much done with all of the animations for the pistol, and we can now move on to the rest of the variables in the gun object. So since IK and animation are all set up, let us just go through the rest of these gun object variables and finish this pistol so you guys can get a good handle on how to add your own guns and customize your weapons. So first, you have two choices for your shoot type, rigid body and raycast. For guns that do not need a projectile, I recommend raycast, but if you want to create all your guns using rigid body bullets, you can do that, just make a bullet object for them. Rigid body guns get 3 extra variables, one for the actual bullet prefab, then the initial force, which is how much force is used to shoot the bullet outwards in the direction chosen, and then additive force, which is how much force is constantly applied to the bullet as it travels. Lower this number for more drop and raise it for the opposite. Next we have muzzle flash, which I already have a object created in the pistol folder that you can just select and drag over for this. Basically, this is cloned at the very start and is scaled and rotated as we shoot. Next is the impact effect, which if you go to the prefabs, you can see I already have impact marks. You can drag this right there, and this is created every time you hit something. Moving down the line, next are the shooting settings. So you can choose between semi, auto, and burst. Semi shoots once and you have to click again to shoot. Auto allows you to just hold the shoot input and continue blasting, and burst is the same as semi, except it has its own special variables. You can see burst shot, which is how many bullets per burst, and burst time, which is how long it takes to shoot that burst of shots. But for this pistol, we are just going to keep it at semi. So let's change that now. And then we have fire rate. So let's set this to 0.1, and this is just how long it takes for the gun to shoot again. It's a good note that the fire rate for both semi and burst does not start till after the gun is shooting. So the longer the burst time, the longer the fire rate is without changing the fire rate. Now we have fire delay, which is how long you have to hold the shoot button before the gun will shoot. If this is above 0, you'll get another variable called fire cooldown speed. This is how fast the fire delay goes back to 0. But for the pistol, we want it at 0. Next is can fire while acting. This allows you to decide whether the gun should be able to be shot when the player is wall running, sliding, or swimming. Next, you have the ammo settings, which are pretty self-explanatory. Ammo clip is how many bullets per clip in your gun, and the starting clips is how many clips of the ammo that you want to start with. Note, you can set this to as low as -1, but if the gun starting clip ammo is set to -1, the gun will never reload, and refilling will happen directly into the clip. The minigun is a good example of what gun would use this kind of system. Next is the boolean lose ammo on reload. This makes it to where if you reload with ammo in your clip, that ammo is wasted. The double barrel shotgun uses this because you pop both shells out when you reload. So for the pistol here, we're going to keep this false. Aim settings are next. The aim FOV is the field of view that the camera should have when you're aiming down the sights. The aim down speed is how fast the player moves the gun to the center and affects how much spread is being focused while aiming. Now, the iron sight aim is what we have to set right now, which is the position that the gun should be at while we're aiming. And to do this, we have to adjust the gun handler object. So you want to make sure your object that you're moving has the gun handler script, because this is what's going to be moving when you're aiming, not the prefab clone. So make sure the gun handler is there, and then what you want to do is you just want to move it to a position what you like. And then once you find a position that you like, you need to hit the copy data button as we do before, and then go back into the pistol object and paste it into the iron sights aim. This is very important you do it here and not anywhere else. And once those are filled, we can now move on. Damage settings are pretty self-explanatory as well. Bullet damage is the damage per bullet shot out, not in total. And then the headshot multiplier here is obviously what damage multiplies if you hit them in the head. For the pistol, we'll do 8 and 1.25. Then we have bullet settings. Bullet range is the range that what a raycast will shoot out at. The default is 100, which I feel like is a good value for it. Bullet spread is how much the direction of the shot will randomly adjust when shooting out. Higher values will make the gun shoot less accurately. The aim spread multiplier is used to narrow the spread when aiming down your sights. Keep the 100 for the pistol, but we will change the spread to 0.05 and the aim multiplier to 0.1. Recoil settings are a bit more confusing. Aim down multiplier is the simplest. It's just how much recoil is negated while aiming. This also affects the sway of the gun. Otherwise, you can make graphs for each axis, X, Y, and Z. X is side to side, Y is up and down, Z is back and forth. The Y recoil is the most important. The higher the value on the Y axis, the more your gun will aim up while you shoot. Negative values will make you look downwards. The multiplier under each graph is just what scale the graph should return values at. So if you have a 1 on the graph and a multiplier of 3, you'll return 3. But I recommend messing around with these until the gun feels how you like it. If you need help, I recommend looking at other gun objects to see what their recoil looks like and how it acts. So here you can see me just kind of setting the pistol recoil here, and I'm basically just kind of messing around and seeing what I think will feel right. And I changed my mind here and decided to do a flat graph, which means it's going to have a constant recoil as it shoots, mostly because the semi and burst should go through the entire graph in one shot or one burst. So this means as it's going through the graph, so as I'm shooting, I'm moving upwards at a constant rate. Otherwise, then we go to the Z, which I want it back and forth, a bit more animated, and that's why the X and the Z graphs are different and they go from positive to negative. And so now you can see randomized recoil, which basically just randomizes the location on the graph that you're getting your value from. I really don't recommend this being over 0.5. So you can see here, automatic adds another one, which is cycles in clip. And what this is how many times this recoil repeats within a clip. You can use this to increase your recoil as shooting continues, so that the beginning is easy to handle and then later on is harder, or vice versa. Or just if you want different recoil pattern as you unload a clip. So the last settings here are pretty much cosmetic and optional. UI settings allows you to basically choose the picture for the gun, and ammo offset X is the offset where the ammo should be. So here we have the pistol sprite we'll just select, and then the offset we'll set to 96. The last ones are the sound effects, which we only right now have shooting and reloading. So just create one shoot and then go to the sound effects for the pistol here, and then just drag them over. So here we're gonna drag the reload over to the reload section, and then the shoot into the one shoot area. Multiple shoot sounds will just play at random when you shoot. Then all you gotta do is give the player the gun. Now let us see what this looks like. Ooh, so that's a lot of recoil. So we're gonna need to lower those values. So it's pretty easy, just go in and just adjust your graphs and adjust your multiplier and everything. So I'm actually gonna stop this from being linear and lower these values by quite a bit. So now that they're like 0.1 and 0.2, I think this will be a lot more manageable. So let's check this out quick. I think that is a lot better and more controllable recoil for this pistol. It's still a bit much, but oh, this pistol does not kill very much. So let's go up to the damage settings and let us just double this damage. And I honestly think it's gonna kill a lot better now. Let's see. That feels like a better pistol to actually be usable. So this is what we just created. So It looks good, it feels good. Honestly, it really is this easy to create guns with this system. Anyway, I hope you guys like it. I hate asking, but if you guys could subscribe, it would help out a lot. About 90% of my views are not subscribed, so please just fucking shoot that goddamn sub button with whatever gun you create. And seriously, thank you guys so much for watching. And if you want, hit that fucking bell, because I'm gonna be posting more videos about how this controller works and just like more advanced tutorials on how to use it to its like full potential. So look forward for that, and I'll see you guys in the next video.